So can you describe lactate? Is that something, do we get the same benefit from strength training with the lactate that's moving in the body, or is that a separate conversation?
It depends on what kind of strength training we're doing. So when we're looking at how the body fuels itself, it's not a linear progression of ATP, CP right into fat burning. We're always kind of using everything all the time. When we get to a precedence of lactate production, it means that we are at a level of intensity where it's too hard for the body to be able to take some of the breakdown components of carbohydrate and pull it into aerobic exercise. So if we're looking at strength training and we're doing a circuit like every minute on the minute using kettlebells or something like that, then we're producing lactate. If we're doing a typical heavier lifting session, that's not lactate production. That's ATP, CP, and we are using a little bit of glucose because we get into that, but we're not at a level where our body can't regenerate fast enough. So when we're looking at the availability of fuel, when we're looking at the higher loads, lower volume type, so your heavier lifting, that is not lactate production. If we're looking at a circuit or we're looking at a metabolic stimulus of higher reps, so we're doing the 20 or whatever to failure, which isn't that appropriate for our group of women, that can be lactate production, but it also depends on how much rest is between the sets.
So let's move on to the rep ranges. And when we launched our first power programs, I know we wrote the program together and we put it out to the world. And I know there was a lot of chatter and confusion about there's some hypertrophy blocks in there. There's max strength blocks. For the beginner, obviously, there's no low rep heavy lifting, and we have higher reps in that to really teach them how to move. But it's very confusing to women when they'll come into our programs and they'll say, well, Stacy wants me to only lift low reps, heavy weight. Why do I have higher reps in the beginning?
Yeah. There's a misconception, I think, in the fitness world where if you're going to do strength training, you can't do any cardio. If you're doing cardio, you shouldn't do strength training, especially heavy loads. If you are going to do strength training, then you should just lift heavy in the power base, and you shouldn't do hypertrophy, or you should just do hypertrophy to failure. But it's not a linear progression of things. We have to look at completely altering and changing things up as we go. So when we're looking at the higher reps and the lower loads in the beginning program, it's because we don't want injury. 2, we want people to learn how to move properly. How do you squat? What is your depth? What are your sticking points? Do we have to work on mobility? How's your core strength? Because we're not going to put you under load if you are bendy and not like a bamboo straw. So when we're looking at how the body responds to it, your body responds to load, and it doesn't matter if it's high or low load, but what kind of adaptations do we want? That's why we want to build women into lifting heavier in the power-based stuff, but not staying in that high loading and lower rep range for the rest of their life. Right? We need to have a periodization, which is what you're so great at doing and prescribing in the programs. So we build up and then we work on our max strength, and then we have a recovery, deload. Maybe we're doing some higher reps there. Maybe we're doing some cluster sets. Maybe we're doing some ballistic movements, and then we can rebuild. Because part of it is we want that central nervous system response to actually take the place of estrogen to build the lean mass in the bone. But then we also want to have different stimulus so that the neuromuscular connections also are having a challenge instead of just always recruiting as many muscle fibers as possible.
Yes.
And I think people get confused when they're like, wait, I just want to lift heavy. First, we need to make sure body's really stress resilient enough to take on those loads. And as you're taking those loads on, we have to back it off a little so that you can become more stress resilient.
Well, and I think what I love that you just said is to be able to give women the freedom to say, listen, there's no possible way that we could come up with one program that would cover everything and that would be suitable for every single female in their specific situation. So the goal really is, as we get women into strength training, and I would love to hear your point on this as well, is to come in at the level that you are comfortable doing. And yes, we want to push you. And yes, at some point we want to mix in these lower rep ranges or mid rep ranges, but it's a different purpose. If you have an injury, maybe you're not doing low reps for X amount of months while you're recovering. Or, if you're trying to work on some stability muscles that require a bit of time to stabilize, then maybe you're doing some higher reps there, but that's not where we're staying in those, 20, 30 rep ranges. Now, I just did a foundation program where I did do, 20, 25 reps, but it was once a year and it was for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I stay in, but the fusion of the science and real life coaching is meant to be tailored, especially when you're selling online programs where we don't have this one-on-one connection with women. Our goal for everyone is to not get injured, to fall in love with strength training, and to just keep at it so that we do have this good quality of life through hopefully 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Yes, exactly.